Okay, bring it to order, please. Good morning, members. Welcome to the Communities Committee this morning. Firstly, I'd like to welcome Pauline Drysdale to our first meeting of this committee. I'm sure you'll make a valuable contribution, Pauline. Thank you very much. I also have to place on record, through choice, I have to say, that Graham Bell, thank you, who stood down from the committee. As most of us know, he's been on this committee since it was first established 3 years ago, and he's, with others, helped shape a lot of what has happened in that time. So it's a thanks for Graham, and a welcome to Pauline. We've got a full agenda of business today, so I anticipate we'll deal with them in the usual business-like manner. Claire, have we got the SEDERUNT apologies, please?
Thank you, Chair. We've got 18 members present this morning. We've got apologies from Councillor Fairbairn and Councillor Ingalls and Councillor Wood, currently not present.
Thanks very much.
Chairman, sorry, we have an apology from Councillor Fairbairn. You've got that, thanks.
Is David coming? No, he's not in the committee. It's okay. We can sort it when he either gets here or doesn't get here. We'll do it one way or another. Yeah. Okay. Declarations of interest. Have we any declarations of interest? No. We move to the minutes of the meeting of the 17th September. This is for approval only. John?
Happy to move.
And I'm happy to second. All happy with that? Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 4. The report provides members with the Youth Work Services Quality and Standards Report for 2018-19. The impact this service has had on local communities and young people is most impressive. I'm delighted that this report has been presented by both officers and young people. So I would wish to extend a very warm welcome to our young people with us today. We have, I'm just looking around the room, yeah, we've got Lucy here, Sophie Blair, Nicola Todd and Keegan O'Neill, along with Mark. And I'll hand over Mark and the young people to present the report. Okay, Mark, it's over to you.
Hello, my name is Keegan and I am from Whithorn in Wigtonshire. I got involved with youth work a couple of years ago when I signed up to do my Duke of Edinburgh Award through the Cairnsmore Award Group. I signed up to do it with a group of friends and to begin with just thought it would be a laugh and give me something to do. But the more I got into it, I realised it was much more than that. Through the award, I have learned new skills, met new friends, helped my community, and really challenged and pushed myself to complete the award. I hope that the award will get me out in the future for college or work. It has also helped me to get to know more about what's out there for young people and has opened lots of new doors for me. I am now involved in the Global Education Group. That is a project for young members and leaders that explores global issues, and next year we're hoping to attend a World Volunteer Conference overseas along with young leaders from across the world. This time last year I never imagined I could ever do something like this, and it is only from the confidence I have developed through youth work and the opportunities that they present that this is possible. I also volunteer to help out with the Social Transition Programme that supports primary 7 pupils who are moving on to high school, helping them to feel less anxious and worried about moving up. I enjoy this because I am able to give something back and help other young people and make sure they can access the same opportunities that I have. Coming from Whithorn, it is difficult to get around to do things, especially in the evenings when there are no buses. But the Youth Work Service breaks these barriers down by helping with transport and making sure everything is accessible for young people, whether that is financially or logistically. Youth work has made me much more optimistic and positive about my future, as it has helped me to believe in myself. I have learned that anything is possible. I will now pass you over to Lucy.
Hi, I'm Lucy and I'm from Dumfries. I started accessing youth work services quite a few years ago, probably when I was about 11 or 12. I found out about the services through a friend. When I first started attending, I was going to drop-in sessions and music night. Looking back now, I know that it was quite challenging for staff in terms of my behaviour. I didn't always get on with other young people and didn't always stick to the boundaries that youth work staff put in place. The staff never gave up though, and I started to build relationships with them and attended more focus-based groups. Youth work services helped me build on my confidence and self-esteem, which made me become more comfortable with who I am as a person. I was accepted for who I was without any judgment and given support when I needed it. Over time, I began to realise that the boundaries were put in place to keep me and others safe. While in the beginning I pushed against them, as I got older, I appreciated them being in place. This helped with my behaviour and I became more settled within services and out in the community. I attended issue-based groups which provided me with information on different topics that were relevant in my life, such as drugs and alcohol, mental health, and well-being and healthy relationships. This helped me make positive choices in my life and to be aware of the consequences if I didn't make a positive choice. From about the age of 16, I started volunteering with Youth Work Services, helping out groups such as Super Mondays and the Peer Project, which are groups designed specifically for young people with additional support needs. This helped me gain a good understanding of additional support needs and disabilities, and it also gave me the foundation for a job which I later started at Key Housing. Through youth work, I gained skills such as planning and organising, communication and working as part of a team, which have all helped me with jobs. I was also given the opportunity around 4 years ago to go on an international volunteer trip to America, which the group fundraised the whole cost of the trip. If I was to attend something like this during school, I probably wouldn't be able to have afforded it. This was a brilliant chance for me, and whilst I got to experience different volunteering opportunities, such as volunteering in soup kitchens and community organisations, the trip opened my eyes to so many things and built on my confidence to be able to travel abroad on my own in the future. Thank you all for listening and feel free to ask us any questions.
Okay. So I'll be cross-marked to questions. The members have read the report. I mean, technically I should have asked the committee are they happy to receive it, but we just assumed they would be. So are you ready to answer questions on the report? Pauline?
Firstly, I would like to thank Mark Malloy and Paul Chisholm and the team. I think you've done a brilliant job this year, especially in Kirkcudbright. Can I just have you clarify for us, Mark, our members of the team, how do you actually communicate within the schools as to what's available? Because that's a little bit of clarity that I'm missing. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Drysdale. Within each secondary school within the region, we've got a youth worker who's based within the schools, and within our 5 service priorities, youth work in schools is a key part of that, and is our second priority after community-based youth work opportunities. And the role of those staff within the school is to act, as well as a delivery role they've got, it's around communication to make sure that young people across all the schools are aware of the opportunities that are available in their local community.
John Young.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that excellent presentation, Lucy and Kieran. Kieran, you talked about help with youth work, help with transport when the buses weren't running. Could you give a bit more detail on what help you received with transport?
Well, as coming from Whithorn, it is hard because there isn't very many buses, especially on a Sunday. But there is many buses that the youth work have, and people carriers which help, and the youth workers are always there to take us around. So, thank you.
Matthew?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for your presentation. Just a little question to you both. Is there anything that you guys feel that could be improved, or is there anything that sticks with you that could be changed? Because you've both been very complimentary about the service, but it's ultimately up to us, if you feed back to us, that we can make a change. Is there any negatives or anything that you've thought over the years that would be really helpful to you or really helpful to Mark and his team?
Personally, I've seen that there has been a quite big improvement from when I first started accessing to like different opportunities, and because it's been brought out wider now, because like before it was just Oasis, and then there was like separate other like youth groups. But now, because it's all integrated, I feel that it's opening like the gap between where it was before. So we're getting to know other people from different areas. It's not so much a issue anymore. So.
Adam and then Dougie Campbell.
Thanks, Chair. It's really nice to have this report coming on National Youth Work Week, which is quite fitting, of course, for National Youth Work Week. The campaign being run by YouthLink Scotland is Invest in Youth Work, and I think that we can be quite proud of a council that we have invested in our youth work services, and particularly one of those investments is the agenda item that is next on this report. For National Youth Work Week, I was asked 4 or 5 questions, and I was wanting to ask one of them to Lucy and Keen at the moment. I was asked a question, what would our region be like without youth work? And I wondered if each of you would mind just answering that question.
Well, there wouldn't be. Some people feel that youth work are like family. For me, that is the case. Youth work are just like a second family to me. And within my school, most days I go to youth base and chat with the youth workers there. And it's just really special to me to have those people to talk to.
Personally, it's quite simple. It's unthinkable. Because when you think about all the impacts that youth work's having on young people in the area, if you take that away, then you've got to be left with all them issues, and who's got to be there to help fix them?
Dougie and then Pauline.
Thank you, Chair. Kieran, Lucy, it's really great to see you here at the committee this morning. Thanks very much for coming along. Kieran, can I ask, you mentioned you're a member of the Global Education Group. Could you tell the committee a wee bit about what that group does and what your what sort of remit you have?
Well, being a young person, we get opportunities from previous volunteering that we've done before, and I was asked to join the group. Basically what it is a trip overseas to attend a volunteer conference and share ideas with volunteers from different countries. So it's a really good opportunity to go there and sort of speak to different people and see what it's like for them, as well as what it's like for us here.
Okay, Pauline.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to both of you for your talk today. It's most enlightening. Due to budgetary cuts, there are now less key skills available within schools, i.e. cooking, sewing, and other such activities. Do you think there's an opportunity, maybe Mark, and also for the young people, that we could try and introduce a bit of that thinking forward as to how we can take, these key skills forward within schools? Because I think it's very, very important that when children and young people like yourselves leave school and move on to live away from home or go to college, that you're able to take those things forward. So I think we should look at that for the future if possible. Thank you.
I don't really know much about the school side of it, but when I volunteer at Super Mondays, there's usually the opportunity for the young people to cook or do different activities. As Keegan said, he's part of the Global Education Group in his area, and I'm part of it in my area, and recently we've been doing sewing and stuff like that, so it's different sort of skills. So I don't know if that's answered your question, but...
Rob, and then...
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you both for your presentations. It was really an observation, I guess, rather than a question. But just thinking back to previous terms of this council, youth work in the Stewartry was at one point very sparse indeed. I think to a reasonable extent, comparatively non-existent. I think it's really welcome the fact that we've now got active youth work in the major centres of population in the Stewartry. I think that's a very distinct improvement on where we were in the past. I know that the Stewartry demographically is the oldest bit of the region, but actually I would argue paradoxically it's all the more important you actually have youth work services in an area that, even notwithstanding the demographic profile. So I think that's a real improvement which I warmly welcome, and I recognise that quite a lot of the youth work initiatives in the Stewardship are comparatively recent, but I look forward to them getting well established and growing and flourishing in the months and years to come.
Thanks, Rob. Sean?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Again, an excellent presentation and an excellent report as well. You know, there's a wide and diverse range of activities and initiatives that are going on right across our region. I just wondered, 12 to 25 covers quite a wide spectrum of ages, issues, etc. And I've just wanted to know from you personally, is there any area that you find is maybe, you know, hard to kind of get people involved? You know, is it 24s, 25s difficult to maybe engage with, or do you find you've got quite a good representation across the 12 to 25 age spectrum?
I think what's important to say is that the age range is 12 to 25. That's the national remit for youth work services within local authorities, but a lot of services we provide will be targeted, so maybe because it wouldn't be appropriate to have a service at a 12-year-old and a 24-year-old at the one group, so we do things which are for smaller age range within that. And I think the offering for your 20 to 25-year-olds is very different and very much focused on employability and skills development in terms of getting, you know, qualifications or into jobs, working alongside colleagues within the Employability and Skills Service in our council, where it's maybe quite different for our primary 6, 7s that are then you know, receiving support into transition in from primary to secondary school. So it varies, but on the whole, the service you know, it would be predominantly 12 to 18 within its delivery, because most 18 to 25-year-olds, to be very honest, you know, maybe find it hard to associate with a youth work service. But at the same time, what you will find is that a lot of the young people who have grown up with the service, like the young people that are here today in some cases, will stay with the service for a long time and then turn into being a volunteer with the service in terms of co-production of our services between staff and volunteers.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I've just a couple of comments, and the first one, if my understanding is right, your role is to supplement, not replace school services. Absolutely, thanks. The second thing, it'd be remiss of me not to do this, because everywhere when I was getting a mean plate of soup, it was pointed out to me actually the thanks to the young people for the support of the Young People's Champion over the last year has been really well received, and they were saying they really appreciate that. So it's a wee pat in the back for you, Adam. That was straight from young people, and I was asked if I'd pass that on, so I've done it publicly. So thank you. Thanks to the two of you, and Mark. Thanks for your presentation. Just hang on a second. Okay, so are we going to agree the quality and standards report? Yeah, and the impact achieved is set out in the appendix. Okay, happy with that? Thank you very much. Thanks very much for your time. Thanks, Lucy Keegan. Yeah, bye. Okay, we're going to move on now to item 5, the evaluation of Youth BEATZ 2019. Report provides members with the evaluation report on the Youth BEATZ Festival and the Tune 2019. I'm particularly pleased that it draws out the key role played by volunteers in supporting the delivery of the Youth Festival. Mark is here to take questions on the report. Mark, could you introduce the two youngsters?
Thanks, Chair. We've got today one of the young people who was involved in the main Youth BEATZ event itself, and another young person. So this is Sophie and Nick, who was involved within the Tune experience. And I won't steal their thunder, because I know that they'll more articulately than I could ever do talk you through if members agree to have the presentation, Chair.
Thanks very much. I'll not make the same mistake twice. Are we actually agreeing to receive the presentation from the young volunteers? Okay, agreed. Thank you very much. So it's over to you.
Hi, I'm Sophie and I'm from Annan. This year at Youth BEATZ I was asked to host the main stage along with another young person, Emily Davies. When I first got asked to host the main stage I was buzzing. The first part of the lineup had already been announced and was great. I got asked after to host a Youth Beats launch, which was held in the Oasis Youth Centre and streamed live across social media. Emily and I then hosted the second launch at Lockerbie Academy, which announced the Sunday headlined act, the Vamps, which made me even more excited to host the event. In the lead up to Youth Beats, I had a few meetings to prepare for hosting the event. This included going over the script and having run-throughs to make sure the script made sense and was in the right order. I also led a video tour of the site, which was posted on social media in the lead up to the event. Even though the event hadn't started at this point, there was already so many volunteers on site. The Oasis events team setting up the stages, the Toon were running school tours, and the Duke of Edinburgh young people were helping with fences. It was so good to see so many young people involved before the event had even started. Throughout the whole event, we had over 200 volunteers who were not just from Dumfries and Galloway, but from all over Scotland and from other parts of the world, including Poland and Taiwan, which is amazing. The Duke of Edinburgh young people that were volunteering were all there as a part of their Gold Award, with Youth Beats being the only music festival to host a Gold Award residential for Duke of Edinburgh participants. On the days of the events, I felt a mixture of emotions. I was excited but also nervous. Backstage, I got to speak to the acts and see the crew working on the production, which included all the sound and light. Being involved in this process helped me develop a professional attitude to the position I was in. I had to be ready for my cue to go on stage every time and know what I had to say and what I was saying next. While I got to speak to the acts, I knew I couldn't act like a fangirl and hound them for autographs and photos. But I did get a chance to chat and introduce myself and speak to most of the acts. During the 2 days of the events, it was great to look out onto the crowd and see so many young people enjoying themselves. I got the chance to go out into the site a few times during the event, and all activities looked so much fun. With 40,000 young people there over the whole weekend, it was great to see so many young people enjoying themselves. Being involved in Youth Beats has given me the confidence to speak in front of big audiences and deliver large-scale events, and has opened me up to more opportunities to deliver events, as I will be delivering this year's Dumfries and Galloway Youth Awards later this month. It has taught me how to stay calm in stressful situations and how to problem solve and think on my feet. It was a fantastic opportunity to be involved in such a brilliant event that so many young people enjoyed and is recognised on a wider level, with Youth Beats and the Toon being finalists in this year's Visit Scotland Tourism Award, with their winners announced later on this month, so please keep your fingers crossed for us. I'll now pass you on to Nick.
Hi, I'm Nick and I'm from Dumfries. The Toon is an interactive issue-based drama production which is designed and delivered by young people for young people. The Toon has different scenes which each cover a different topic which is relevant to young people. Young people go through the Toon in groups and walk through each scene, taking part in any interactive activities throughout whilst learning about where they can gain support if they need it. I've been accessing youth work services since I was 14 and got involved in the Toon in 2013 with it, which was the first year of World of Wonka. Through the Toon, I've developed my interest in drama as well as also getting involved in the production elements such as set design and set building. Being part of the Toon doesn't mean you need to deliver an Oscar-worthy performance. You just need to be able to show others a real-life situation or the impact of issues that people may face. When I was first involved in the Toon for World of Wonka, I was nervous and anxious to act in front of people, but the sessions leading up to the main event in the 2 weeks performance and production camp helped me with my nerves and my confidence and helped me get to know the rest of the young people involved. The Toon takes a peer education approach at informing young people about issues they may face in their lives and how they can work through these and where they can get support. Becoming upskilled as a peer educator takes a while and is an ongoing process so that we can remain up to date with relevant information. We get sessions delivered to us by local and national partners, including the police, Dumfries and Galloway Sexual Health Team, Domestic Violence Against Women Partnership, No Knives Better Lives, and many more. The information we learn whilst becoming a peer educator is not just relevant for the Toon, but in our everyday lives. We know where we can go if we need support, or we're able to guide friends towards support. The Toon has had a positive impact on me as a volunteer and has made me gain confidence and overcome anxiety when it comes to speaking in front of people. It makes me feel good about what I'm doing through the Toon, as you get to see the impact that it has on people that come through in the tours, and they may be affected by the issues in the scenes, but they can get signposted to agencies that may be able to help. Over the years that I've taken part in the Toon, I've also learned about so many different issues and widened my own knowledge which I then passed on to others. Every day is a learning day when taking part in the toon. I will now take any questions.
Okay. Adam?
Thanks, Sharon, and thanks to you both for coming along and talking about the toon and Youth Beats today. Unfortunately, I made the mistake of booking my holiday over Youth Beats and was not there, but I think that this report, as did last year's, really demonstrates the value in which our contribution to Youth Beats makes for young people and indeed across the whole region. When you look at sort of the economic impact, but you look at the dramatic drop in antisocial behaviour incidents over the Youth Beats weekend itself, and of course the fringe heading up to it, just actually goes to prove that this is a example of best practice youth work, and that's been identified across Scotland. But because of the way in which it is well managed and co-produced by the youth workers and young people, and getting the fantastic acts in which we do, I can remember the excitement when we launched that at Lockerbie Academy. I was gutted to be missing some of the acts myself, to be quite honest. That really helps to draw in the young people and to make the Youth Beats the success that it is. And I think that it is absolutely fantastic that it being recognised by the Thistle Awards. I very much hope that he's win and that he's go forward, but actually to be recognised by the Thistle Awards as a fantastic, well managed event is quite spectacular. And that obviously wasn't what Youth Beats was set up to do. It was set up to be that best practice example of youth work. But I think it's a sign of actually the way in which Youth Beats has grown, it's developed, and has become that signature event for our region. So thank you for coming along, and well done for your contribution and the hard work that you put in at the time.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Sean?
First of all, I think I've seen Youth Beats for the 12 years, 13 years it's been going. Is it? 11, no, I wasn't too far away. And one thing that irks me every year is, that it gets criticism, from certain quarters about the money that we spend or contribute in that, which is just a drop in the ocean. And the interesting thing I've seen it develop, the toon is one of the best examples of interaction and learning that a young person go through. And I've seen it go in the 11 years from actually being run by the council and workers within the council to actually slowly transferring over. So now it's more or less run by the volunteers, which are all young people. And that's amazing. And the fact that you're now in shortlist for the Thistle Awards, along with the likes of Edinburgh Hogmanay, pays testament not only to the festival and the Youth Beats, but also the young people themselves. I was a little bit interested in what Sophie said as well, just a little bit more information on the fact that you now have over 200 volunteers that come not only from across Scotland, but overseas as well. I'm just interested, is this people that have maybe came, it's made an impression on them and they wanted to come back and help? I just want to understand, because to get 200 volunteers for an event is fantastic.
I think in terms of the volunteers we've got, there's a mixture of adult volunteers that want to give something back to young people in the community, but around 80% of the volunteers are young people, and I think that's a really positive story in terms of young people want to give something back within their community, and a number of them are who are older young people in that 18 to 25 bracket are ones who have attended the event before and wanted to be involved. But again, this year we also worked with a range of food banks from across the region, and I had about 25 volunteers from them, and we were really delighted by the volume of food that was collected at the event. And I think again that shows a positive message about what young people, how young people value the event and how they want to support their wider community, because it was a phenomenal amount of items that were gathered over the 2 days, which were distributed from food banks from Stranraer right through to Annan.
Thanks. Anyone else? Matthew?
Just one wee question, please. Fantastic presentation, you've done a great job. But you're talking about peer educators, yeah? Is that something, it sounds fantastic. It's obviously been extremely helpful to you and to others. Is that something that gets any kind of recognition as a qualification, or can it go on to something else that gets recognition as a qualification? Because it sounds pretty good to me.
From being a peer educator, you can then go on to get your Youth Achievement Award through that.
And I think as well that there's a range of accredited qualifications that our volunteers are offered, through either Volunteer Scotland or working with third sector, Dumfries and Galloway, until there's a Saltire award as well to recognise their volunteering. And I think the number of hours that young people get through that are some of the highest in Scotland for such a short period.
Mark, just on the back of that, so I think it's a stepping stone, really, the peer education, isn't it, as to what it can lead to. So have we had any of the young people who've helped over the 11 years who are now moved into youth work as a profession or work for the council? Or I'm not expecting you to give me exact, but have we got examples of that actually happening?
Yeah, I think something we are really proud of within the youth work service is that we've actually got one of the youngest age profiles of staff within the council, and a big part of that is because young people come up through the service and then they feel that youth work's a career that they want to take part in, and we've got a range of young people, and even this week as an example, of National Youth Work Week that Councillor Wilson referenced, that the Oasis Youth Centre and also in Agnew Park in Stranraer, we've got the Youth Takeover Weeks, where actually we positively asked staff that were over the age of 25 to volunteer to leave the services, and the whole services for the 2 weeks again run by staff and volunteers who are under the age of 25 as part of that takeover, to show actually that they can do that. And I think you'll find that from youth groups in Annan to Dalbeattie to Whithorn, is that it's a very young staff group that have come up through youth work services in different ways, including youth BEATZ.
Thanks, Mark. I think that's kind of where Matthew was heading with his question. David?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Youth BEATZ is obviously a good example of how the council can fund something big and make it happen. And, if we could wind down our funding of this event, then we could go on to create other great events, perhaps at different times of year, and that's towards 12 months tourism, which we actually need. And but if we keep funding Youth BEATZ to that extent, then that money can't be taken forward to use to promote other events spread across the region. So are there any ways that Youth BEATZ can become more self-sustainable, and we can then free up this funding to put into other events?
I think we strive and have done over the 11 years around trying to maximise the external funding opportunities and commercial sponsorship opportunities for the festival to minimise the level of support required from the council. And I think an example of the funding that the council put into it returned a visitor spend of over £500,000 for the Dumfries, and I think that shows in terms of how that investment makes the social impacts on young people, but also the economic impacts. But it's also always something that we're striving to do in terms of bringing in additional funding opportunities and sponsorship opportunities to reduce the pressure within the council.
Well, I'm not sure that was a clear answer what we could do. But if we always think that 200,000 gets in £500,000, then perhaps we should spend the whole council budget on events. If that was the case, but I mean, but I think it is incumbent on these events to think about how they could become more self-sustainable, because the opportunity lost is the creation of other events.
I think you've got the numbers wrong, David. We don't fund it to 200,000. The council funding is total 100. It's 160 per year, but that's for the whole year, isn't it? And all the arrangements up to it.
It doesn't matter. The principle is the same.
I think what Mark was also saying in there's a significant number of outside investment in this. A significant amount of sponsorship goes into this, because the running of the event is the thing. I mean, what I'm looking at here, I agree with the concept we should seed fund and then work down. I think nobody really disagrees with that, but there are certain events where that might not be able to happen. We need to fund to a core standard and then enhance what we're doing through other things. But that depends on what the message is and what we're doing and what the event is. The bit that I was picking up here is that the amount of money that would have been spent on volunteers if we'd had to pay folk. And I notice, just to show I did get O-level arithmetic in the old days, we're just over the minimum wage we've allowed for the volunteers, and the volunteers were at all different levels. So 145k is probably a wee bit modest, Mark, in terms of if we were to really allocate what the cost would be if we'd had to pay some of the volunteers for doing the jobs they did. They would come in considerably higher. I'm conscious I'm taking over here and I need to let others get in. Anyone else? Matthew, yeah, you come back.
It's just on that point with regards to charging for tickets and things for events like Youth Beats. It's been established in the past that grant funding would not subsequently be brought forward if it was an event whereby people were paying £5 or £10. So there is a juggling act as an event, whether it was a £5 or a £10 and X amount of people came and paid £10. Then these organisations that give funding or give supplies or services for free would then subsequently not do that. So you have a kind of tight juggling act. As much as I like to charge for everything, in this instance, we have to be a little bit more sensible about it.
Mark, you want to come in that?
Yeah, I think the charging thing's been looked at a number of times, and it's worth just for this committee's benefit to be aware that for any charge that's introduced for every pound that's brought in, that we would lose 32% of that between the VAT part of that, but also Performing Rights Society would levy a 12% charge on the event. So for every £1 that goes in, 32% would be lost. But also a number of the national funders who have put money in for a number of years to the festival have made it clear to the council on a number of occasions that if we introduced a charge, whether that be £2, £10, £20, that national funding would not be available, and we would also have additional costs in relation to Police Scotland charging in terms of that uniform charging policy that they have, that currently the event doesn't have a policing charge, as no free event does, but there would be a policing charge. We would lose some of the external funding, and it would be 32% of every pound brought in would be away. So that's just the context in which we're working.
Do you?
Thanks, Chair. Mark, just a wee question in relation to the ticket spread, so that the 70.3% in Dumfries and Galloway. How does this reflect across the four localities? I'm aware of young people in my own ward who go along to Youth Beats and speak very highly of it, but is there, in your opinion, is it an event that's accessible right across the region, or is there any challenges in terms of improving that position?
Yeah, I don't have the breakdown into the four wards, the four areas to hand, but I do know that it's diversified significantly over the years in terms of that being offered out across the region, and there is a significant uptake from all four areas. Something that we've done for the last few years is worked in partnership with local third sector organisations to put in place transport so that young people, whether from Stranraer or Langham, are not excluded from the event, or even from Upper Nithsdale, for example, that we've then working with those organisations and our youth work staff to put in place transport. And I think that what you have seen for the last 2 years is an increase in terms of that, and that relates to the funding moving from Nithsdale Area Committee to regional funding through policy development, which then has allowed us then to significantly promote that greater to the other three areas other than just Nithsdale.
Mark, I'm acutely aware, because I've been involved, like some of the Nithsdale members here, since the inception, that it started off very much as a Dumfries thing, right? And it's now no longer that. Yep. It was funded by the area committee for quite a number of years now. It's in the central pot. Following on from Dougie's question, would we be able to show members of the committee by email later, give you the time to go away and do it, what the breakdown of the people coming from is and how that's changed over the years. Is that possible?
Yeah, we've got that data. It's a relatively simple job to do, and we'd be happy through yourself, Chair, to share that with members of the committee.
Could you do that on ward basis, and then just external, just an external number? Would you be quite happy with that? Yep. Just a second. Showery hands here. Try to be helpful. And 2 seconds, Mark. Sean first, and then Dougie. Yep.
I think it's just nice to see after 11 years that the Conservatives are starting to mellow a little bit about charging for the event. And I think rightly so. I think, we should be proud that we actually are hosting the biggest free festival for young people in Scotland. But also as well, I mean, even when you start putting a price on it like £5, then that starts to exclude certain young people as well, because £5, if there's 3 in a family, they might not be able to afford that. But also as well, with Mother Hat on from Magnox, who sponsored it since its inception, the big attraction is the fact that it's free. If you were to start charging, then I'm sure major funders like us would actually not look so favourably on supporting it if it was to be a chargeable event.
Sean, I think that most of that's fair comment, but we've got a number of new councillors who haven't been here and haven't gone through that historical process and how we reach where we are just now. I mean, the commitment right now is it's free, right, and it'll stay free. Would be my hope, and certainly what I'd be striving for, and I'd be lobbying for, and I'd be voting for. Yeah, and it was a fair question that was asked, and we would expect that with any major event, and it was a fair, reasonable question. So, Dougie?
Thanks, Chair. It's just a follow-on from the request that you made to Mark for the spread. I think it's great that we'll get 29% of the tickets being distributed across Scotland. I'd also be interested just to see where those people are coming from across Scotland. Is it neighbouring authorities, or is it wider than that? Just out of interest. Thanks.
Well, I mean, I know there were people here from Aberdeen. So they were from all over. Yeah. Loving it. I'm just being corrected by my vice chair here. It's not the biggest free festival for young people in Scotland. It's the biggest one in Britain. That's the. So on that note, unless somebody else has got something they want to ask, the very able volunteers, Willie, come on. I've wondered where you were.
I'm sitting over here, Andy. I'm sure you recognise me. I think it is an excellent report and an excellent presentation from the young people. And indeed, it is spread throughout the whole of Dumfries and Galloway. And the young people of Stranraer, they look for the transport to get them to youth beats. So that is a big kudo for the town, or the town of Dumfries, and how it can put on a celebration for young people. Just in terms of rollout, then I would hope, and I know Mark is in discussion with Stranraer FC to replicate the almost youth beats in Stranraer in 2021 to celebrate the 150th year of Stranraer FC as one of the oldest football teams in Scotland. Because of the success of youth beats, they would like to replicate that in Stranraer. I even noticed that Adam got his 40 in, while he maybe not been at youth beats, he managed to get his 40 into the reports, and that is good as well. But I noticed in the document that just came out in terms of the £12 million cuts, that youth beats is a soft belly to that, maybe facing some cuts, and I just wonder if as members and how the young people would feel about that. In terms of if there is a cut being identified to youth beats, because generally, and I heard Sean talk about that, sponsors generally look for the local authority to be supporting alongside the sponsors and not just the sponsors. So I just wondered if it's going to jeopardise the whole build-up of youth beats over the 11 years, that in identifying cuts this could put at risk the whole youth beats continue.
The question, Wally, was...
It wouldn't be fair to ask the organisers, but members.
We've actually agreed 3-year funding, Wally. Okay, that's the answer to that question. Yeah. Anybody else? No. There was something I was going to ask you, Mark, and we used a ticketing agency in some description. Was it Eventbrite or something like that? There's a following question. Because I know if you use Eventbrite, there's a process where you can actually go back to all the attendees because their emails will be there or their numbers. I'm particularly interested in the transport situation, right? How they got there, or how difficult it was for people to get there. And the reason I'm asking that is I'm tying together that into 10,000 voices.
Chair, when people apply for tickets, one of the questions we actually ask them is how they're going to travel to the event. So we've got that data, and again, it's very easy to share that with members along with the ticket spread in terms of into the ward areas and the other local authority areas of Scotland.
Thanks, Mark. Anyone else? Okay, in that case, we'll go to the recommendations. We've obviously we agreed to receive the presentation, and thank you for that. Are we happy to acknowledge the key contribution of the 202 volunteers involved in the festival? Okay. Note the significant economic impacts of the festival as detailed in section 6 and the appendix. Okay. Note the significant social impacts of the festival as detailed in the appendix. And 5, endorse the Youth BEATZ Festival 2019 post-event report in the appendix. And just to finish off, I'd like to thank Sophie and Nick for their contribution here today. Thank you very much for coming along. Thanks, Mark. Okay, we're going to move on to item 6, which is the Democratic Services and Communities Business Management Service Plan for 2019-20 to 22-23. It's a report by a Community Planning and Engagement Manager. The purpose of the report is to present the Democratic Services and Communities Budget Management Services Business Plan for 2019-20 to 22-23 for approval. I've got Liz Manson here to take any questions. Liz, are you happy just to go straight to questions? Yeah.
Perhaps if I could just highlight 3 things for you before we go into questions. I think, first of all, I think Richard and I would like to place on record our sincere thanks to the staff who've put this together, particularly the service managers, during a difficult period for them. Secondly, you'll see in 3.5 that we've had a staff survey. And just to give you some of the highlights of the results, the support for the behaviours and values that are in the plan were at 95% and 92%, with the comment about how important it is that we actually live out these values and behaviours. So that's certainly a very positive for us in that. 89% said that they were the right challenges that we'd identified, and 83% that they were the right opportunities, and 86% that it was the right environmental and carbon reduction measures that the managers had put together. So I think these are very positive results from the wider staff team. The final result is that 66% said that they were the right performance measures, with 29% saying that they didn't know. And that's something that's flagged up to us. We need to do a bit of work with the wider staff team about why we measure performance, why it's important, and get them involved in the detail of what it is that we're reporting to you. And that leads me on to my last point, which is that there is some final work that we know needs to be done in the budget and workforce information, and also in the performance information. You'll see in some cases there's a to be confirmed. So we're working on that, and we'll bring that detail to you at the 6-month report in January. Thank you.
Okay, so we're ready to go to questions. Matthew?
Just on the staff survey, was every member of staff asked?
Yes, every member of staff was asked. We were aware that we were doing it at some of the time was during the October school holidays, so it wasn't perfect timing. And there is a challenge that some of the staff are not full-time or based in an office. So we did our very best to get that information out to them. But yes, certainly every member of staff was made aware of the survey.
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in page, it'll come as no surprise, in page 117 in terms of the lobbying. And we will play our part in campaigning, lobbying regarding the decision of policies. And then it goes on to talk about the A75, 76 and 77 and also the A7. I accept that, and Rob's here, we've already made inroads in a deputation going across to Northern Ireland, to Mid and East Antrim Council, and we got the overwhelming support from that authority in terms of the upgrading to dual carriageway of the 77 and the 75, because they see it in their interest in their whole economy to the Northern Ireland. But we've got to recognise that this is an important feature, both in terms of the 77 and 75s and jobs and business development in attracting businesses into the region. And it's horrendous to think if someone, a business person, was to come off the A6 and have to face that 100-mile journey across the region to reach Stranraer and the port of Cairnryan, and it would be a complete deterrent to them to even consider investing in our region if we don't get these roads upgraded to dual carriageway. And what's coming out of the survey seems to be that they'll straighten a couple of corners, we'll make a couple more passing places, but it's not what we require for this region. So my question is, or less what lobbying activity we've actually done other than to respond to the survey that is out just now, and whether we need to maybe accelerate that lobbying activity to bring about positive change to both the 77 and the 75. What activity has taken place other than what I've mentioned?
I'm sorry, I don't know the detail of the actual activity that's taken place, but certainly there are regular reports, I think, as part of the Swesttrans that we can arrange for members to have that information about what has taken place and what their future plans are.
Also, those of us who run COSLA groups lobby in there as well, Willie, but it's a moving feast, isn't it? I take your point, though. Rob, just a second, is it the same point, Willie?
It's just in response to what Liz has just said there, and it's really where we say we will play our part in campaigning and lobbying. And I would hope from this committee we would recognise the need for inward investment, for the improvements of the road, that we do look for an acceleration of that lobbying activity, and we put that back to the appropriate committee that deals with lobbying activities.
I think that's a fair comment, Willie, and I would maybe ask for a bit of time here, because this has just recently come to us. So in terms of roads, it's been getting done at EEI in the past. I know other things I've taken up on this committee's behalf. We got Scottish ministers lobbying when the committee decided we're going to do that. So we'll come to that, we'll do it. Okay, Rob?
I hadn't actually indicated yet, Chairman.
Sorry, it was John next to you.
Thanks, Chair. Liz, was very interested to hear about the staff survey. Was that constructed jointly with the trade unions, and does it allow trends to be followed in future staff surveys over the years so you can see the way things are going?
We've used the same staff survey for a number of the business plans in the Communities Directorate over the last 6 months. So it's the first time we've done the survey, but we would certainly see that as something for future reasons to get that trend information.
Thanks. David?
A question for Liz, please. You mentioned a figure of, I think it was a percentage satisfaction with our policies regarding climate change and environmental issues in the staff survey. Could you, let me know where that is, or just maybe perhaps reiterate it? And my follow-up is, was that survey carried out before or after the emergency?
The survey was carried out after the climate emergency was declared. The results are on page 112 and 113, where all of the business plans that you've seen have incorporated environmental and carbon reduction into the transformation programme that the Council has got. So examples in page 112, things like paperless committees, access to electric vehicles, etc. So we had identified a number of these things that this service was leading on, and we put them into this section of the report and then consulted staff saying, is this the right things? Should we be doing more? Is there anything we've missed? And it was 86% said they felt these were the right ones.
Do you want to come in, Richard?
Thank you, Chair. just a slight follow-up in regard to transformation. We've now held the 2 transformation events specific to both the internal and external transportation themes. I think what has been exciting about both of those transformation events is that there has been a real opportunity to look at the climate change agenda in relation to transportation. Of the 2 events, the internal transformation event is very much focused on key issues such as electric charging infrastructure, salary sacrifice that would encourage employees to look at electric vehicles, Skype and other opportunities for us to reduce our carbon footprint but go about our business in a different way. And certainly in terms of the transportation strategy, the review of the transportation strategy, the opportunities presented from the Transport Scotland Bill, and the clear desire to work with community transport partners and perhaps to review the subsidised routes across the region to provide more efficient, effective and economic ways of providing transportation services aligned with the climate change agenda have come through very strongly from the transformation event, and they will be fed back through to members when we have the feedback session and the members' seminar.
Anyone else? No. In that case, then we'll move to the recommendations. We're asked to agree the Democratic Services and Communities Business Management Services Business Plan. We'll need to get that shortened, Liz. For 2019-20 and 22-23 in Appendix 1, and the changes to the performance information in Appendix 2. Happy to agree? Thank you. Thanks very much, Liz. Okay, move on to item number 7. The Infrastructure Capital Programme 2019-20, Finance and Progress Monitoring, report by the Head of Roads and Infrastructure. Report provides members with an update on the projects and programmes contained within the 1920 Infrastructure Asset Class Capital Programme. So that's the current year, yeah. Aileen, I think, is here to lead the questions, answering the questions, but Aileen, have you anything to add to this report this time?
Nothing to add, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks. Just before we go on, I think it's only fair, those who used to be in EEI would know Aileen and her service there, and I don't think it's remiss if I said that Archie and the old EEI committee and this committee would like to thank Aileen for her contributions to date. She's moving on to a really riveting job at the Assessors Department, I believe. So good luck with that, but we'll let you get through today first. Yeah. So are we happy to go to questions? Sorry, Aileen, have you anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you very much for that, Chair. Greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone got any questions? We're asked to note the financial and progress updates for the to agree the environments from the Asset Class Capital Programme as reported in Appendix 1. Read. 3. Agree the addition of schemes within the structured speed limits and road safety and traffic calming programmes and the movement of projects to reserve lists. Read. 4. Agree to the acceptance of the European Maritime and Fisheries Fund offer of funding of £16,586.63 for Port William lock-up facilities as detailed in paragraph 3.32 and 3.33. And 5. Agree to the acceptance of £36,000 from Sustrans design stream funding for the progression of traffic signal design work at Trequeer Road, Dumfries, as detailed in paragraph 3.40. Agreed? Thank you very much. There you go, Eileen. I said it was an easy job. I've got to say, I think in all the time I've never actually seen that go straight through like that, so never mind. We'll move on to item 8. Surplus property in Dumfries and Galloway, report by Head of Neighbourhood Services and Head of Roads and Infrastructure. The purpose of the report is to ask members to agree that the 12 areas detailed within the report are surplus to the requirement of the Communities Directorate. Karen Brownlee and Graham's there if need be. They'll take any questions on this report. Karen, is there anything you'd like to add?
Nothing further to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So I'm happy to go straight to questions. David?
Thank you, Chair. It's just more of an observation than a real question here. You know, I'm just. So I know that I've had the opportunity to comment on these before at the local level, but looking at Castle Douglas and the sites that we would be letting go are actually not maybe doing anything at the moment, but are actually very strategic. I'm just wondering whether we might in 10, 20 years, or who knows, actually regret not having that space that's compact and really downtown in these key strategic locations. And I think it's very easy not to foresee. Well, it's impossible to foresee what the future is going to hold. But you know, the current thing would be, I don't know, bottled banks, or it was bottled banks, and it was electric car charging places, and it's just so difficult to foresee the future. What, you know, it could be an emergency drone landing site or something, I don't know, whatever. But I think if we, I mean, obviously everything's for sale at a certain price, but I mean, you know, are we going to get big prices for these? Should we perhaps look at, when they're really key downtown locations in our towns, perhaps at leases which are, you know, long enough for the leasee to get some benefit for it, but we could actually reclaim it should times move on and you know, new technologies come forward which actually need to harness in the downtown areas. And I don't know if anybody else feels the same way on it, but it's just when I actually got the maps in front of me, I realised that, wow, wait a minute, yes, maybe it's just a bit precipitate.
David, I'm struggling to find what the question is.
I actually tried to say at the start it was a reflection, and I don't know whether anybody else had a similar thoughts when in their town these handily placed smaller assets are liquidated, where they probably are not going to get a great reward for selling them, but they actually are in very strategic points. And but you know, if no one's interested in it, let's move on.
Okay, I think thanks for your reflections on that. Adam?
I suppose it's always good to be prepared in case ET decides to land in Castle Douglas, I suppose. But I just wonder, maybe we get a wee bit of clarification. Obviously, the council's acquisition disposals policy means that if we declare it surplus, then other council services would have the opportunity to say, actually, we might be able to use that. But I mean, I can say certainly that the piece of land in my ward, I'm quite happy to see some progress on that and it going through this process.
Thank you, Chair. Just to confirm that the part of the Council's disposal process is, first of all, coming to Service Committee to allow members to declare property or land surplus, at which point it's then deferred to Strategic Asset Board, and then the process will follow the disposal and acquisition policy.
Okay, thank you. Ian?
Thank you, Chairman. Can I ask how long it takes for the land such as this to actually progress through your system? I'm thinking about one particular piece of land in my own ward, in Dilbeatty, that's been in question now for probably 3 or 4 years and has gained the approval of a community council, but they think it should be sold on to.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure I have a response for you in terms of timelines, but I would certainly be willing to ask colleagues to keep members up to date as this progresses. And certainly, you know, one of the steps will be going to area committees in each area.
Thank you for that. If you maybe come back to me at some stage and I'll identify the land. I think Mr. Allison at the back there was present certainly at least one of the site meetings several years ago. Thank you.
I think, Ian, your point's well made, but we'd be equally attacked if we were too quick to do it and don't go through proper process. So I think it's finding a happy medium is what you're really looking for, isn't it? Yeah. Anyone else? No. In that case, then, we'll move to the recommendations. I'm not going to read them out individually because we've all got them in front of us. Are we happy to agree the recommendations at 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, 2.8, 2.9, 210, 211 and 212? And there's none on the page, is it? Okay, are we happy to agree? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we're into item 9, the Dumfries and Galloway Council's Records Management Plan. Report provides an update on the Council's management plan and improvement actions. Nick and Lindsay Turpey are here to take any questions in this report. Nick, is there anything to add, or are you quite happy to go to questions?
Just happy to respond to questions, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Jim?
Thanks, Chair. An observation first on page 214 of the authority background. I thought we had 43 councillors. And maybe a cut and paste job. But the question is, the archive centre that we have, was at one time in not a particularly good state of repair, and there were moves to improve that and delegate to a different committee at that time. I hope that the condition of the property is good. And I think the other thing is, the archives were in paper form, and although it maybe doesn't relate to all archives here, are we now in a position to offer electronic access to all archived documents, or are we in the process of doing it? And I was thinking about old records from former royal boroughs that are now stored centrally, and I understand years ago the intention and the expectation was that it would be made available to local communities rather than stored centrally. And I know we have an arrangement where by appointment folk can come and view them, but that's not the same as complying with the spirit of making them available locally as and when folk want to access them.
Actually, I've asked Harry to come down and answer that, to be fair to Nick and Lindsay, because it's a different part of the department dealing with that. So
yeah,
Harry,
it was just archiving and records. That's why I asked the question, and about the property, because I know we were intending to improve it. I don't know whether we have or not.
Thanks, Chair. Archives and local studies are part of the libraries service. At the last assessment, we'd digitised about 50% of all archives that are in existence, which means that we can get access anywhere in the world, in essence, and we found that because people can access them, they then follow up perhaps through family studies, family history, etc. So there's an ongoing programme at the moment that ultimately what we want to do is digitise everything and make it available to anybody that wants to get access to it.
That's great, Harry. We're progressing that, yeah.
I think the only other thing I'd say, Chair, is yes, you're quite right, Councillor. The Keeper has, I think, picked up some old information in relation to the number of councillors, so we'll pick that up with them and put them straight on that.
Although I'm quite sure we'd like 47 reinstated if we could get it.
You've still not managed to mention Sanka yet, Jim. Matthew?
So tempted to mention something about Sanka now, but I won't. What documents are we talking about here? We're not talking about planning permission paperwork and building warrant paperwork, are we? Because they're held by the department. With regards to digitising records and stakeholders and the public accessing records, will you subsequently pull in plans and licenses and things like that? I'm also thinking about environmental standards and stuff like that. I mean, those documents are the documents that we as councillors are asked about the most. Previous applications, neighbour disputes, things like that. And so I know from experience that the building warrant applications were all stuck in a warehouse getting damp, but the massive files with huge amounts of information that no one would ever look through, and then 17 years later someone would request a bit of information about boundary disputes, things like that. So just as a all-round question, what are we discussing, and do planning permission and building warrant applications, environmental health, trading standards, paperwork, stuff like that, stuff that we as councillors get asked for, will that become digitised? Is that ever possible, and is that even discussed here? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, well, the records management plan covers all of the records that we hold as a council. I think the archives part there is sort of things with historic value that we do try and digitise and make available to the public. There are other documents that we would obviously love to digitise going forward in the future, but the sort of key project that we have at the moment is for unstructured information. So we currently have sort of file shares which hold our unstructured data, so we're trying to move that to SharePoint so that it is more accessible. So things that are within case management systems and also paper documents that sort of within the services have to sort of prioritise that as whether they want to digitise or going forward. But certainly digitisation is one of the key improvements that we can make to our records.
Yeah, and yeah, come back in, Ronnie.
Just like to jump back in there. So, I mean, I know going forward that our applications for planning permission and building standards are e-applications now. So we're going to, so as of a couple of years ago, that kind of information is going to be easy to find. Is there a plan to digitise old paper? Will there ever be a plan to digitise old paper applications? Because just speaking from experience, that would be impossible.
That would be for a service decision, basically. So I'm not too sure how to answer that, sorry.
Well, I wouldn't say no, but I think, to be fair to Lindsay, she's not in a position to answer for other departments. Yeah. Your point's well made and noted, and maybe just need to take that back and find out how the other areas are actually. Today we are focusing on what this department's need, full council as well. Yeah. So this is the plan for full council coming through us because we have a responsibility for it. So I think your point's well made, but some task, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else? David?
Only on that, I think in general digitisation is a good thing, but there are some plans like that we just would not digitise well, and probably it would be a shame if we lost them thinking, okay, we no longer have to archive them. And I know, talking to some of the professional staff, they've got a similar opinion on particular types of plan, but you know, if we can't afford to archive them, I suppose digitalisation is a good plan B then.
I think I know because I've just paid a lawyer to look at the land register for Scotland for me, and they're digitised up in Edinburgh. So it's the older ones tend to be now digitised nationally, and it is up to each of the departments. I think I'm getting this right, Derek, to prioritise which ones are doing first. Okay, it's a case of let's work our way through them, I think, and do what we can if it gets to. Yeah. Is that fair enough, Lindsay? Yeah. Thanks very much. Anyone else? No. In that case, then I'll move on to the recommendations. One is the approval of the revised records management plan by the Keeper of Records of Scotland, and two, the progress made in the improvement actions which are on target for completion date by 31st of December 2020. Okay, thanks very much. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, Harry. Okay. Right. Consultation on removal of public call boxes in the DUMFRIES and Galloway area by British Telecom. Report by Community Planning and Engagement Manager. Purpose of the report is to agree a council response to consultation by BT on the future of phone boxes which have had a low number of calls over the last year, taking into account the views and proposals of local communities. Liz Manson is here to take any questions on the report. was just one question, Liz, before we went on. Somebody had asked me, is consent the right wording, or is that part of the statutory consultation process, or what is it?
It's not part of the statutory definition, but it is the phrase that BT use when they ask the council to send back its comments on the proposed closures. And I have one additional point to make to the report, which is that we've been asked by Kirkconnell Community Council to object to the phone box in Kirkconnell, which is page 242 in your papers, and it's in Ward 7. And the proposal is that we reject it because although the broadband map shows that there is broadband coverage, that they report that there is some intermittent problems due to a poor signal, and so that they would recommend that you agree to reject that one on the basis of a poor mobile phone signal.
Okay. Adam, then Rob.
Thanks, Chair. Just, I'm not, I don't have a huge issue with this report. There's just there's three that stand out here, and that would be the High Street in Dalbeattie, which has had 117 calls in the last 12 months. Tregel's Road, Dumfries, which had 75 calls in the last 12 months, and the sort of one in the town, opposite the town hall in Langham, which has had 94. Now, I appreciate that's still probably about 0.3 a day in the last 12 months, but I'm just, do we have an understanding as to why actually, when we've got most of these that have probably got an average of about 2 calls a year, we've got 3 across the region that are just stand out, approaching 100 calls a year, and do we actually have an understanding that? Because I don't think we want to rush into consent and for, particularly for those 3, when actually there might be a legitimate reason why that is the case. And naturally over the next couple of years that might reduce anyway, so I'd just be quite keen to know if we do have an understanding as to why, when the majority of them are sitting at 0, or certainly 1 or 2 calls, that we have these 3 that are quite high.
It's simply BT pick the ones that which have the lowest number of calls under a threshold. So these 3, you're right, are much higher than the rest of them, but there's no particular reason why they have or have not been included.
Liz, before I let Robin, I take it the number of calls is number of calls made from that box. Okay.
Thanks, Chairman. Certainly, Adam's raised the point that, or one of the 2 points that I wanted to raise with regard to Dalbeattie, because there is a very bizarre disparity between 0 calls, which I guess in many circumstances might be difficult for us to object to all that effectively, and 117. There's a marked difference between 117 and 0, but that's already been rehearsed. The other point I just wanted to raise was with regard to New Abbey. I mean, the signal situation in New Abbey is considerably improved from what it used to be, but it's by no means comprehensive. I think one of my phones works there and one of them still doesn't, as it has not worked there since 2007. So I do just rather wonder whether there's perhaps a bit of an issue there. It's not the black spot it used to be, but it's certainly not comprehensive coverage in the way that an awful lot of places have now come on stream across the region in the intervening period. I'd flag that up at this point rather than necessarily wishing to change anything, but I do think that in common with Kirkconnell there's a bit of an issue there where there remains a partial black spot depending on the phone that either a resident or more likely a visitor will be using in that area.
I think, thanks, Rob. Adam, you went back in, and then Ian. Yeah.
Sorry, no, I'm just trying to get an understanding. Do we have an explanation as to why these 3 in particular have more calls? So we don't know that information.
No, BT simply select the ones which have the lowest calls across the region in each area. So I don't know why these 3 are much higher than the rest of them, but they must come with underneath the threshold that BT view as being a small number of calls.
Thank you, Chairman. It's along the same lines as Rob. The Dalbeattie one, I think that the 3 criteria that they put forward, the only one I think it may fall under is within 600 metres. I assume that this one is the call box at the top of Port Road in Dalbeattie in High Street, and we do have one in the post office, which at a stretch may just be around the 600 metre mark, I would have thought. But it's certainly one I think it really needs to be investigated. It doesn't really identify which one it is. There's two phone boxes in High Street. There'll be one at the top of Port Road and the other one outside the post office. But I think it's borderline whether or not the 600 metre distance would be there.
Chairman, can I clarify a point on that, with your leave? The phone box on the High Street at the top of Port Road is now the property of the Community Council and is being used to house a defibrillator. So it can only be the other remaining one, I would assume. And I guess that the volume of calls is possibly reflective of the fact that there is only that one. But just, as I say, for clarification.
Yes, certainly. I did notice the change of colour in the phone box. I should have guessed that one. I don't know of another phone box within 600 metres. So it's 800, if that's certainly within the criteria. It's certainly well over the number of calls, and it's well over the 500 population. So I think that's certainly worth looking at.
Okay, we'll come to that in a minute or two. I've got David and then Sean.
Yes, it would have been more helpful if we'd had the context with this is set. For example, other telephones available in the town. If one, for example, was taking resilience into account, although I know there probably are, the networks are to a certain extent independent, the wireless networks these days, and you could argue that we don't need a link, physical link to the outside world in a difficult situation. But in Dalbeattie, I'm just guessing that's the one in the Town Hall car park, is it? As you leave the Town Hall car park, which I think I've seen people using it. It's not beyond the realms that I would use it myself, actually. Not that I've got a special interest in it, of course, but could we set a lower threshold in our for phoning, and could we set a lower threshold here with our consents, just to be on the safe side?
We can come to that in a minute or two. Sean?
Yeah, and David's kind of touched on it as well, and it was when Adam raised the issue. I think you've said that BT provide us with this information, and these are the lowest numbers of calls, but I think we've had a number of these reports, and we get them on a periodic basis about them wanting to shut so many And I'm just wondering, if BT have got the information, what would be helpful for us is to actually see where all the telephone boxes are across the region and the amount of calls. And also, you say one of the relevant factors is emergency calls. So if they have that information, that would be helpful as well, so we can see where telephone boxes have been used to make emergency calls. So I just think, out with the meeting, if we could get maybe that information sent us, I think that would be helpful, so we get a true picture of the current situation with telephone boxes across the region.
Anyone else? Jim?
Chair, just an observation again. I'd be concerned if for some reason there's a high usage of some telephone boxes, because nowadays most kids at the primary school run with a mobile phone. Everybody in the world's got mobile phones. There must be a real reason why these phone boxes have been used on a fairly regular basis. And it also says in this paper, if there's a social need. Now, I don't know whether deprivation factor comes into that or no, but it certainly doesn't in Kirkconnell. And I would be concerned. I think we need to explore more. And the last thing I'll say about this is BT should be telling us the reasons for the threshold, and not just it's the lowest ones they have, because as soon as you get rid of them, they'll have another list of the lowest ones. And eventually, systematically, they could simply obliterate phone boxes. And I think we should be careful, especially in the high usage ones.
Well, I'm certainly not going to say on the record what I think some of the use might be, but I think we just need to keep in mind here is that BT are consulting us. We can't tell BT what to tell us. They'll give us information. I think that's the way it comes across. They want to open it up. For me, there is an issue, and I'm kind of waiting if nobody else has got one. It's quite interesting that we agreed to fight the closure of the one up in Esdalemuir. I'm looking at Ronnie here, but the one at the Yowes Village Hall, which is right on the busiest road going through, other than M74 going through Andale and Esdale, right? And the only communication in poor radio, mobile phone signal up that road, right? The only link on a trunk road to emergency services has been recommended to shut. I mean, I'm in everybody's hands here. I would have thought that would have been one we should have been saying, no, we need to keep that open just purely on safety grounds. But
correct me if I'm wrong there, Chair, but Esdalemuir telephone exchange, it's been rejected due to mobile coverage.
yeah, that says Esdalemuir, Ronnie. I'm talking about the one up at the Youth Community Hall. It's in this. It's just further down, below the Langham Town Hall,
Yeah.
right? And it's just that the text for the objection for Esdalemuir has come right down over it. It looks as though it's covering that, but it doesn't actually cover that, because if you look in the far right-hand column, it's saying consent. So I'd be saying is, you know, it's on one of the major trunk roads through the region in a very remote area. It's access to emergency services, and one we should be seriously consider rejecting. But that's only my view at this moment in time. David?
Chair, at the risk of being sent for further education again, I'd like to ask you, what are our options today? What can we do? How can we, as a committee, communicate with BT on this?
It's in the report, but I could say read the report, David, but I'll let Liz tell you.
Yeah, I think this is the third time that you have been consulted on proposed closures, and you're absolutely right. Each time that BT and indeed other providers do review the phone boxes, there are fewer and fewer calls being made from them each time they do the review. In terms of your options today, the council, the local authority, as a planning authority, is always invited to express its view and give its consent or withhold its consent or agree in adoption. So that's your three options that are available to you. But if you withhold your consent, then you do have to meet certain criteria that BT will review. I have to say, in the past, certainly the last time, BT were, I think, quite flexible with us, that where we had objected to some on grounds of mobile phone coverage or proximity to the coast, I think they were quite generous in their interpretation of that with us, and particularly the one in Whithorn, in Isle of Whithorn, sorry, where technically I think we weren't quite out with within their area. They allowed that one to stay open because we had objected because of its proximity to the coast. So I think they are quite generous in their understanding. So if you did want to object to High Street Dalbeattie, to Treacle Road Dumfries, and to use Community Hall in Langham, I think we could make the case for that, and I would imagine that BT would be sympathetic to your views.
So Ian first and then Adam.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't know how Rob feels about objecting to it. It's more the identification of the location of this phone box. You mentioned one about in the car park in Dalbeattie. Well, I don't think that would be classed as High Street. And this one's specifically classed as High Street, and the only one I could think of is outside most of us, and it's obviously fairly regularly used. I would certainly propose at this stage, until we get further information, that we object to that in this one.
Okay, I've got Adam and then Jim and then Ronnie.
I don't want to get onto a pedantic debate about wording, but I mean, I'm not, obviously none of these phone boxes in my ward. I don't think I've ever used a phone box for about 15 years, to be quite honest. But I just think that for us as a council, I don't know whether it's actually that we're opposed to rejecting them. I think that actually there's a lack of information about why there's so many calls being made from them. I don't know if it's maybe a case of, can we withhold our consent? Because for all we know, that could be 50 emergency calls that have been made, but we don't actually have that information. So I don't know if there's a possibility of actually can we withhold our consent on the basis that there's maybe a conversation between ourselves and BT, and that we find out exactly what this data is and actually what is the reason for the number of calls being made.
Liz, could just reiterate, what's the timescale for this? We need to respond quite quickly, don't we?
They have actually extended the timescale to allow it to be considered today. But again, I think if you're able to say, here's a number that we have allowed your consent, but there's only a small number that we want some more information on. I think that they're very much in the business of trying to make this work for them as well as the communities, and they do give quite a long time for communities to give their views back. So I think that would be perfectly acceptable to BT.
So I'm trying to wind this up. So Jim, sorry to get...
Thanks, Chair. No, I'd endorse what Adam's saying, but I hope that Kirkconnell's included as well because it comes from the Community Council. The only thing I would say about that is we have fibre optic broadband in our area. That was part of the rollout programme. And I'd be concerned if that's not working in parts of Kirkconnell, because it certainly should be, and that's something that we should maybe investigate with BT as well, or their subsidiary department. But broadband should not be a justification for not taking that phone box away, because broadband should be very efficient in that area. The green boxes with the fibre optic are all over the place. But I certainly want to support the Community Council on their views.
Thanks, Chair. I mean, if we're looking at the objectives of this, and we're trying to change the format of the discussion here, I mean, from my point of view at Langham, there's 94 calls being made in a year. And the position of the phone box in Langham is vital, really, because it's right in the middle of the town, actually, and right next to the town hall, also right next to car parking. So if we were going to look at that again, like you can, I would think Langham should be included in this review.
Are you suggesting that the one that's mentioned here we should be objecting to? Or 94 calls? Yeah. I mean, I don't think we need to go to vote on this because we can actually pick things off here and agree where we are. The one I was talking about, and the only reason I know is because I use A7 a lot, as you know, and the mobile phone signal at best is intermittent once you get outside Langham, and the only real communication with emergency services is that one at Hughes Hall. So the rest of them are sort of reasonable touching distance or communities or other ways of phoning for an ambulance or the fire brigade. So I'm kind of trying to wind this up. So are we saying, right, okay, if I've got this right, the one at Langham, the one at the High Street in Dalbeattie, I'm quite open whether you want to support me on the one up the middle of nowhere in the A7, purely on safety grounds and poor mobile phone signal. Is there anywhere else we would be no happy with? Adam?
I just think, from my point, the other one was the one on Treggles Road in Dumfries.
So I know it's my word, and the thing is that, by the way, there are two in your word. I didn't know why I put you up at the time. No, yeah, absolutely. But if you want to include that one, at the end of the day, we didn't BT. Liz has captured our concerns, and we can put it forward what it is, okay? And we can move on from there. You agree with that? Yeah. So Liz has shown quickly, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want, I'm happy with those recommendations, but it was really just my point earlier that I want taken on board going forward, that, if we can get some information in the future with regards to, there's quite a number of issues that have been raised there, but even the fact that, how many of them are red telephone boxes still, how many have got emergency calls, how many we've got across the region. So at some point in the future, if we can get that information provided to us, that would be great. Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Liz had actually noted that. So no doubt that will be communicated to BT when we send back our response. Yeah. So in that case then, are we happy to agree the council response with those amendments that we've discussed? And Liz, I'll update that for us and send it in. Okay, happy with that? Thanks very much. Okay. Welfare reform update, universal credit, report by Head of Neighbourhood Services. So Paula, it's here, and the report provides members with an update on the rollout of universal credit, the local impacts and the wider work being undertaken by the benefits and welfare team. Paula Doherty is here to take any questions. Paula, have you anything to update members, or are you happy to go? So we can go straight to questions. In that case then, we'll go straight to recommendations. One, we're asked to note the ongoing work of the Welfare and Housing Options team has resulted in the prevention of 80 evictions as detailed in paragraphs 3.2.3 and the Appendix 1. 2, the progress in relation to the auto-enrolment of free school meals and the school clothing grants and the positive outcomes for families. That's brackets school clothing grants to the value of 58,000, just slightly over, and a saving to the families of £156,000 per year, represented by free school meals, as detailed in paragraph 3.6 and Appendix 4. And finally, 3, the update in relation to Social Security Scotland, as detailed in paragraph 3.7 and Appendix 5 and Appendix 6. Happy to agree? No. Thank you very much. Thanks, Paula. Okay, homeless service update. Again, the report provides members with an update on the continued improvement and programme of the housing options and homeless service. This report also provides an update following a visit by the Scottish Housing Regulator in June-July 2019 and seeks agreement on the annual assurance statement submitted to the SHR as a housing regulator on the 31st of October 2019. Lorna Campbell is here to take any questions. Have you anything to add, Lorna? No, fine, so we can go straight to questions. Just to say, if we agree the recommendation, the annual assurance statement, I'll be signing it immediately afterwards and sending it up to Edinburgh. Sean?
I think it'd be remiss of us not to kind of say, the encouraging kind of key indicators, that we are going in the right direction with regards to, people in temporary accommodation, etc. And although the live cases is it has since 2016-17 went down, by significantly, it's down by about 80. I just wondered though, it seems to be that we have got quite an encouraging programme of builds, particularly with Cunningham House and others coming into there, and the funded through the SHIP. I suppose we'll start to see that effect on the number of homeless, hopefully in the region, as more and more of these sites are being constructed, because there seems to be, and it's welcome as well, there seems to be quite a significant amount of affordable rented accommodation being built across our region. And I just wonder if there's any comment on that. But well done.
Yep, thanks, Chair. Yes, and I think we do work very closely with all the registered social landlords, so when there is new developments coming on, we work closely with them, to, especially if there's any particular needs around homelessness, so they can build that into their programme. As part of the local housing strategy, there is a percentage allocated to homeless that go to all the new builds as well. But in addition to that, and certainly the new housing association moving into the area, they've been very accommodating as well about actually taking some of the new builds as temporary accommodation, so they're leasing them to us, which improves the quality of temporary accommodation we're actually providing as well. So yes, it is encouraging, and the more that it's built, actually, the more that we should have, and the numbers that are needing housed through homelessness should start to go down as part of that.
Okay, anyone else? David?
Quick one on the 272 Gypsy Travellers. My recollection is that we were shown a figure similar, not even identical, to the 338 for Glen Luce, and Colin had a figure of a 7-figure figure, 1.6 million. I can't remember. Could it have been? Yeah, and has that option now been abandoned then? Is that taken off the table, that particular option? Because it looks like we're starting from scratch here again. Is that right?
No, I'll get Harry in, but the answer is no, it's a separate report. But Harry.
Aye, thanks, Chair. Yeah, situation is that members will be aware that as part of the budget development process, funding of around about 350k was allocated at the end of February this year to undertake the required improvement works at Glen Luce. Property Architectural Services have advised us that that work will commence on site following the procurement tender process in January of next calendar year. And in terms of Cullen, we're currently, as members requested, going through an options appraisal in terms of how to address the requirements at Cullen and what other alternative provision potentially could be looked at. So that will be coming back to members in a specific report on that issue.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, Dougie.
Thanks, Chair. A question for Lorna. At 3.6, there's reference to some areas needing more work following the visit of the Scottish Housing Regulator. As a fairly new member of the Communities Committee, I'd be interested to know, it appears to me that points 1 and 3 are covered in subsequent paragraphs, but there's reference to service user engagement. Could you maybe explain for me what that area for improvement actually is and what's been done?
Thank you. Yes, what the regulator is keen for us to do is actually work with service users or people who have previously been through the service to look at when we're actually doing improvements and looking at our processes. They are keen to get feedback from service users. Now, what we do have in place is customer satisfaction surveys. So when someone's been through the service, when someone's accessed a temporary accommodation or we've had to do repairs to temporary accommodation, we do actively seek feedback from service users. Now, that's only been in place for the last 12 months. But in addition to that, what we're looking to do is actually set up the user group meetings with service users. So what we'll try and tap into is the Tackling Poverty Reference Group. There's a number of members on there that have experienced homelessness. So what we plan to do is actually set up that group and have either set meetings, whether it's 6 monthly or quarterly. We'll assess what that need is and actually get that feedback in about how the service is delivered and actually seek any feedback about where they think improvements in the service or how we deliver it could be made.
Okay, I think if you look at 3.5, it kind of gives a verbal update of the recent visit by the regulator, the follow-up visit, and I think we have to agree, accept and commend the huge steps that this department has taken in the last 3 years in terms of improvement and culture and everything. So I think it's it's good news that it's what should be happening, and it's a thank you to the staff because they've really knuckled down and got on with it. So anyone else? No. In that case, then we'll move to recommendations. Are we happy to agree 2.1 to 2.3? Okay, thanks. Move on to item 13, the Revs and Bens Excellent and Social Inclusion Awards, report by Head of Neighbourhood Services again. Report provides members with an update on the recent success of the Financial Wellbeing and Revenues Financial Inclusion and Welfare Support Team. I think the next job is to get a shorter name for you. At the Institute of Revenue Rating and Valuation 2019 Performance Awards. I would also advise members that myself and John are making arrangements to visit all of the staff to pass on our congratulations on behalf of the Council. Well, absolutely. So, Lorna again is here with Harry to answer any questions. I'll just say one comment before we go on, is that when John and I were at the events, when the national judges come up to us and say we're really lucky to have the team we've got, that speaks volumes, and the rest were a distant second, was what I think was the quote, wasn't it? In the teams that they were up against, and there were some big outfits they were up against, So, has anybody got any questions for Lorna? Are we just in? Okay. Right. So I think in that case we'll note the national award, and as I say, John and I will be going up to meet the staff. There's too many. They're actually doing, I would suggest, too important work. Rob, do you want in?
You're not wanting to overwrite the fact that you're going to go and congratulate people personally, which is absolutely appropriate. I do rather wonder, we should, I think, add that to the recommendation as well, shouldn't we? So we're not just noting the national award. I think we should be congratulating everyone that worked to get it, if you would be happy with that.
Okay, we'll put that there as the recommendation. Yeah. Okay, so we're happy to note, and then with the addition that Rob's just suggested. Right, comfy with that? Thank you very much. Thanks very much. Okay. No contentious issues here. Emergency closure of the C61A Waterbeck to Dunby Road. Progress report. The purpose of the report is to provide members with the work being progressed to develop options for repairs to the C61A Waterbeck to Dunby Road. And Graham primarily here to answer questions, but is there anything you need to add at this time, Graham? Any update? Okay, thank you very much. So we can go straight to questions. Thought it was so, Ronnie.
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to ask Mr. Allison, actually, the discussions that's been taking place with Scottish Power, are they fairly positive? And also, if we could maybe highlight the timelines on this project, actually, because obviously it's very disruptive to the residents along that road, and also it's actually diverting a lot of heavy traffic that usually goes along that road down the B7068, the B722, and it goes by the Hotsbridge School in Waterbeck. So if we could have some updates on that, I'd be grateful.
Yeah, first of all, the discussions we have had with Scottish Power have so far been very positive. We intend, once we've had a look at and considered the geotechnical consultant's report, we will enter into further discussions with them. So it'd be difficult to put a timeline on it at the present time until we've looked at that report, and then we'll set up another meeting, but I would hope that would be within the next few weeks. Programmes thereafter, we'd have to discuss further with them, obviously. We appreciate the impact, obviously, the diversion's having as well. And we did try to negotiate with the quarry regarding timings of deliveries, etc., but they weren't very amenable.
Okay, Ronnie. Yep. Anyone else? No. In that case, then I'll go straight to the recommendations. So we've got to note the progress of investigations and discussion with Scottish Power regard to the road repairs, and 2, will agree to receive a report back from Graham or whoever to the future meeting of this committee to consider the proposed options and funding of the works after all the work's been done. The preliminary work been done. No, the work's been done. Yeah. Okay, we happy with that? Thank you. Move on to item 15. Thanks very much. The Lorburn Hall update report by Head of Safe and Healthy Communities. Report provides members with an update on the future arrangements for the Lorburn Hall. Lee Seaton is here with Richard Grieveson to take any questions on the report. Lee, is there any update?
Nothing further to add from the report, Chair. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Well, in the absence of any question, I'll ask you a quick one. The money, the £2,000 has been recovered. Is that getting credited back to the Common Good Fund? Because it came as a grant from them.
Correct, Chair. Yes, the cheque has been received, and officers within the appropriate department have made those arrangements with Finance.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, in that case then, we're asked to note the current position regarding the future of Lorburn Hall as set out in paragraphs 360 to 38. You happy with that? Thank you. Thanks very much, Lee. And now, item 16, Keep Scotland Beautiful. Beautiful Scotland. Again, this is a report by Head of Neighbourhood Services. The report updates members on the success of the Beautiful Scotland Awards It was a privilege for our council to host these national awards. I'll get it, yeah. And we have gained significant national profile, which will undoubtedly help to increase the number of people visiting the region. Rather than me talking, well, apparently we've got a technical hitch, so we're not getting a movie. What we can do, Jamie, to save time would be actually maybe to circulate that movie around about the committee members by email, and they can look at their leisure.
Yes, I'll do that, Chair.
Thank you very much. So Jamie's here, Jamie James is here to answer questions, but I think there's some update situation to do with the proposals, am I right?
Yes, that's correct, Chair and members. Just to make you aware that as part of the recommendations on paragraph 2.5, it should read recommendations at 3.20 and 3.21, which just now makes a change in paragraph 3.21 to the fact that we'll now have one regional-wide event to celebrate civic pride and volunteering.
Okay, thanks. Any questions, Jim?
Just a very open one, Chair. Page 307, 3.16. Keep Scotland Beautiful campaign which supports local communities and organisations encourage practical local action to change behaviours and improve the standard of local environment quality. I presume that doesn't take away the commitment that we make as a business and an organisation to maintain standards locally. That will be the same as ever, aye?
No, that assurance is there that we're working with local communities, and Jamie's team and the other teams through the region are doing exactly that. So, Jamie,
yeah, that's what I'm looking for, Chair. Thank you.
Chair, yeah, that's absolutely correct. Yeah, we're totally committed to continue what we already deliver. Thank you.
Rob?
Chairman, very briefly, welcome the fact the report is here. It was an excellent event. I think it's important to place on record the thanks of the committee to the officers and staff that were supporting the communities that were ultimately successful, and the other entrants for that matter, in winning awards. And I look forward to seeing the development of the local scheme, which I think could have some real benefit right across the region. So, yep, in all respects, I think a very good piece of work.
Absolutely, Rob. Just for clarity, the proposal, there was actually a typo in the report we didn't pick up, but recommendation 2.5 actually relates to paragraphs 320 and 321, not 318 and 319. So the new proposal is that for paragraphs 320 to 321 will be amended and indicate, building on this deal in Bloom, we will encourage communities across the region to organise their own events to celebrate civic pride. To complement these local events, the Council will organise a region-wide awards event to promote best practice examples of civic pride, which will embrace examples of communities improving and enhancing their local environment. Are we comfy with that? Yep. Okay. It also recognises, of course, the vast number of little small villages and that who've been doing really good stuff over the years. We're not going there to tell them how to do things. They already know, right? So are we comfy with that? Yeah. Okay. And so in terms of recommendations then, so we agree all the recommendations to 2.1 to the amended 2.5. That be great. Thanks very much. We have no other business. Thank you for your attendance, and I believe some will be going elsewhere now. So thank you very much. By the way, lunch is there. It's soup and sandwiches. It's there for you.